I didn't know
And we're live.
I didn't know it was going to be on a camera. I've been dressed a little bit better.
That's all right, brother.
Wearing
That's
my
all
Sunday
right.
best.
Well, I'll probably get this set up at some point, so it's just audio as well. But no, it's great. Thanks so much for coming out. I know it's not easy to make the time. You got a lot on your plate. So today on the Mikey Show podcast, we got Chris Lozanski with us. Chris is a pretty damn colorful guy, and so pleased to have him on the show. He's a former pro wrestler, Hollywood stunt man, business, and now he is a business owner. So, Chris.
Well, I don't know about Hollywood stunt man, more like Canadian, Vancouver and Calgary.
Well, Hollywood North.
I guess there you go.
No,
yeah, north, yeah.
At Smallville, you worked on that for how many seasons was that?
Oh, I didn't work on it the whole time. I don't know how many seasons. I worked on it for a few seasons.
Yeah,
helping like with the stunt, setting up the stunts and stunt to safety and stuff like that. So
okay,
did some work on Stargate. Most recently, they're filming a TV show called Tin Star in Calgary. So did some stunt work on that. So yeah.
Now, is that a growing thing in Calgary? The film industry, from your perspective, is it been a big shift over the last few years? Or
I think surprisingly, I think the film industry is the same complaint that the oil and gas industry has here in Calgary, that my medical cannabis business that I have here, I think the complaint is the same thing. Too much government intervention causing too much headache and not enough production. They're coming here to Alberta specifically because they don't give, they're not as friendly to productions coming in like you are out in BC and Ontario with Toronto and with Vancouver and Toronto respectively, right?
So we're not doing what we can to encourage, because there's been a lot of movies shot around here.
And I know with a lot of people in the industry, a lot of people were excited actually about, of all things, of having our NDP government, because they thought that with it being the arts, that there'll be a lot more receptive, maybe a little bit more funding, a little bit more helping with big projects, a little more, not even so much with even the funding, but just the big companies coming in to give them a little bit more tax breaks to make it more appealing. And just typical, they're just scaring everybody away. So that's why you got literally 10, 20 times the amount of productions being shot in Vancouver that you do Calgary.
It just, so if we made it more warm and friendly, and if we created a better environment for them, it's not the shooting locations, it's the political environment for them.
That's all it is. That's all it is. People love to come here. They love to come to Alberta and shoot, right? For years, but that's basically what it is. It just comes down to, I don't want to start throwing out numbers because I know I'll be messing something up. I'll be speaking out of ignorance, but it's they just don't get, like I said, the big companies don't get the tax breaks. And then I believe there's a limited a dollar amount with the funding, and once they reach the dollar amount, which isn't very high compared to the other provinces, it gets cut off for the funding from the smaller productions. Once that pool's dry, it's dry. And I know a lot of people in the industry were hoping that would be a little bit more favorable once the NDP government came in. But of course, they disappointed just that industry, just like they did everybody else in the province, right? So that's why I think they're going to be short-lived.
Sort of a neat lane to fall into. Like, how did you even fall into stunt coordinator and safety and?
Well, I wouldn't. I've never been a stunt coordinator. I've done worked.
What's the right title of it?
I'm a stunt performer, but I guess because I used to be a professional wrestler, I kind of more stunt fighting, stunt choreography, right?
Okay.
I don't do any stunt driving. I'm not a, driver like that. Don't do any of a lot of high falls or anything, so it's just more of a specific stunt fighter.
Okay. Stunt fighter.
Yeah.
So how did you fall into that?
Got out of wrestling, moved to Vancouver, and then just kind of, just started networking myself and just started to get in touch with some stunt coordinators. And back in the day, that was the early 2000s. So I actually wrote letters instead of emails back then. I actually mailed them to the production offices and just kind of knocked on some doors. And I think that's the way anybody in this business gets started, is just knocking on doors. Yeah,
it's or a LinkedIn connection. You actually have to make that physical contact.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you betcha. So the transition from that, it was the stepping stone for that, and for the pro wrestling, and that was through your brother that you fell into that.
Yeah, kind of through my brother and through Went to go visit him when I was going to university. Went to go visit him in Puerto Rico while I was on break, and so went to go visit him for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't get over, like when you and I talked before, I couldn't get over that what these guys got paid to do, and it seemed like quite a fun lifestyle to have, and so I kind of got asked where I got signed up, and then I got trained here by the Harts and what is known as the old dungeon. It's two Harts early 90s. So yeah,
That's a legacy there.
it's a legacy there. It was there. I don't believe it's there anymore. So yeah.
But that's some old school stuff, though. It's got to still be a respect to have cut your teeth.
Yeah, when the guys that I went there with were one of the last classes I came out of there, one of the last group of guys that came out of there too, right? So
yeah. With the Harts, describe your relationship with the Hart family and what they've been going through over the last while. It's been quite the evolution. Like they were wrestling with Stampede Wrestling in the meantime, and in between time, that's it for another edition of Stampede.
Yeah,
Wrestling.
old Ed Whalen. Yeah, I grew up watching that. So
yeah, that's right.
Well, I don't, I've kind of lost touch with the family over the years. I knew Owen passed away.
Yeah.
The two brothers that I broke in with that trained us were Russ and Bruce, which were brothers of, and so those were the guys training people at the dungeon when I was there. So, I've known, but I'm not like I've stayed in touch with them or kept up with everything over the years. So, with the Hart family. So,
what was the getting into something like that and seeing what's going on behind the scenes, whether it was at WWE or I mean, you're at a few different, under a few different wrestling.
Yeah, I guess the best way I would have related to everybody is I was one of those guys that maybe, let's say, AAA baseball, I made it to the WHL, just one step just below making it to the big leagues. And
right, just timing, on the edge of the game.
Just on the edge of the game, and then just timing was everything. And then when it was, my time to kind of pay my dues or whatever, or kind of not pay my dues, because I did pay my dues, because I definitely, what do they say? If you've in the wrestling business until you had 1,000 matches, you're a greenhorn, right? And then
is that right?
I guess it's like any other business, right? And then when they say you've done something for 10,000 hours or 10,000 times, that's when you're a master at it. So, yeah. I've had more than 1,000 matches, so I wouldn't say I was a green, but I just got a little bit, I guess, burnt out of the business and kind of saw the political thing and what was going on with everybody's finances in the late 80s. I was, when my time when my business was kind of, when I was peaking as a wrestler was when Vince McMahon ended up buying out WCW from Ted Turner. He ended up taking ECW. Japanese economy kind of people weren't making money in Japan like they were. The peso, the conversion was, guys could go to Mexico and make a living while they're in Mexico, but you weren't going to be banking any money and bringing it home. So it's just the business was the late 90s when all that happened. The business kind of took a little bit of a shakedown, I guess, there. And that was when I had a choice if I wanted to be on the road for 300 days out of the year, not necessarily collecting the best paychecks, or what I want to do. So a little bit burnt out. So I got out of the business at that time.
If you're not a headliner in the WWE, well, what's the other market that is sort of the next best place to be? Is it Japan?
Yeah, right now it'd be Japan. Yeah, for sure. Japan's always been, it's being a businessman. I've been in a bunch of different businesses. I've been in, like United States. I used to, at one point, was a realtor, was a real estate agent for residential and commercial. I used to do some real estate development, being the oil and gas business. And the funny thing is, even the wrestling business is, I would say, similar to a lot of these businesses, where it's just 30 years ago, there was a bunch of, 30, 40 years ago, there was a bunch of small businesses, what they used to call territories in the wrestling business. Stampede Wrestling was one of them, where a lot of guys can make a decent living at it. And there was there was a few places to go. So if you kind of got bored, you need a change or whatever, you could go to a different territory, and maybe you'd go from here, you could go to the coast and work, or you could go down to Oregon to work, or something like that for wrestlers. And then just around the time when the mid 80s happened, when Vince McMahon kind of took over the territory business, I guess is the worst way of, I'm trying to find the wording for it, but basically the territories were killed starting in the late 80s. And then it just kind of became just a big company with the WWF. And then you had the WWF, and then you had NWA and all that, which was a territory, but they couldn't survive. So then they had Ted Turner came with his money and kind of took that over, and it turned it into WCW. But it's just, wrestling business, oil and gas business, real estate business, it's just tough for the little guys to stay in anymore, right? It's just these bigger companies and corporations overtaking everything. That's kind of what the WWF did back in 20, 30 years ago.
It really seems like one hell of a meat grinder. We're just doing an interview earlier today talking about the process with veterans going through battle school. You can start with 30 and maybe 10 graduate. And I don't think that's terribly different from wrestling. Like the amount of broken bodies, and it's just one hell of a meat grinder. Is that what you found?
Oh, without a doubt, right? Like just breaking into the business, there just, even like I said, when I trained down, they used to beat the heck out of you just to see how bad you wanted it. If you do, if you're some guy that just was maybe a fan of wrestling, wanted to get into wrestling, but didn't have what it takes, you weren't going to last very long. You were going to be gone. And again, I don't know what it's like when they train guys now. I know they're more focused on the entertainment, but I was kind of more of the old school guys where it was a little bit more what they used to call shooters, a little bit more tough guys back in the business back in the day, not so much performers, right? We had those old school catch wrestlers and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely meat grinder. So just to even get, to get to learn through what they used to call the kayfabe or whatever, to just get into the business, you had to pay your dues, and then you had to get through that meat grinder, and then just to make it, it's like anything, right? Anything's a meat grinder at the top, but the wrestling business, especially, there's no security in it. If you're not working, you don't get paid, and even now, I don't know. There's a lot of these local independent shows. These guys are pretty much working for free, beating up their bodies, working for free, right? So.
How many people make it to the game, like from the pool of wrestlers? Is like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100?
Oh, geez.
Tough number to quantify?
It's tough to quantify, but no, not 1 out of 100. You're probably talking more out of 10,000, 1 out of 100,000 nowadays, especially if there's only the WWF to go to, right? There's still a lot of people that want to get to do so.
For those that do make it, there's quite a few of the guys that have ended up with just destroyed lives, that have just not been able to stay on the top. And like we were talking earlier about Jake the Snake, and have you watched that documentary?
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's really something. Did you know Jake?
No, I met Jake a few times. I didn't know him all that well, but after he was done working at WWF, when he was having his hard times, that's when he started going through his heart business. We kind of met at some of those local shows. As I was coming up, he was going down, I guess. So
Yeah.
It was an honor for me to meet him and wrestle with him on the same card. Was probably kind of not the best thing for his, right? Coming from working in the WWE.
So you've actually been in a match with him?
Worked in the shows, same shows with him.
Same shows, yeah.
Same shows with him, yeah. So, it's interesting. I would not recommend my kids getting into it, though, for sure.
No, nor would I suggest my boys join the Army.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. So, couldn't imagine some of the stories that you have.
Well, we all got stories,
Yeah.
and it's a product of being in an extreme environment. So today about embrace the suck, that you're able to make it through the other side with something like that. That's what made it good. If it was easy, it wouldn't be good. Like, you wouldn't be proud of it if it was easy.
Exactly. But it's all that mental baggage that you accumulate to get there, right? To get through the suck, to get there. That's the, I think, I don't know, right? Because it's what made you strong. I want your kids to have to go through, but yet, the kids admire you and admire the man that you turned out to be, right? So,
right.
So it's kind of one of those catch-22 things too, because I think nowadays, I just see how soft. I got a 15-year-old said 12-year-old twins, and I just, I can't even relate. I guess it's the same thing my parents' generation relating to us or whatever, but the kids seem so soft compared to what we were, and just mentally softer than we were.
They don't have the resilience,
Yeah.
So something small happens, and it's, I feel for them, because they don't have the stuff, the grit to really get through it, and something that's small to us, to them is the end of the world.
One of the biggest things that blew my mind was, I've got this medical cannabis clinic, so we work with doctors. And a friend of mine growing up, she was like my best friend's big sister. So she's like a big sister since I've been 5 years old to me. She's a doctor, and we've been talking, about the medical business and clinics and all that. And, I guess somebody who just graduated from medical school is called a locum. I just learned so a doctor who hasn't started to practice being a physician yet, but they graduate from medical school, so they're about to start working. It's referred to as a locum. And my friend Christine had made a comment. She said she can't get over it. She's about, she's in her late 40s. Christine, she can't, late 40s, about 40, 49. she couldn't get over like these kids that have what it takes, what you're talking about, that thought through, going to medical school, having to pay their dues, when they're doing their residency, working 12 hours a day at the emergency and stuff. When it comes time to get hired and they got these student loans to pay off, they got all this thing, it's time to come in the workforce. They don't want to work full time. Even her clinic was trying to hire what they call a locum, to train somebody to come in. Doctors want to go away on summer vacation or something like that, so they need somebody to cover for them. They can't even get somebody to come in because nobody, even the people that they've hired, will all of a sudden just not show up to work. Like, just even somebody that you would think, like doctors, people that have what it takes, that are mentally strong, that they have the drive to go get through medical school. But this generation, they just don't even want to, once they even complete it, they still don't even have the desire to follow through and to stick with. And of course, this is a huge generalization. Not everybody's like this, right?
No, but I think there has been a societal shift.
But it's just, when Christine and I are talking about this, yeah, it is. It's like you said, a societal shift. It's just, of course, everything's generalization, but I think, all stereotypes and generalizations are obviously there's a reason why they exist, right?
And I'm not even sure it's the worst thing, because we would have honor for our generation of being that slave to the job, and hard work was the core value. That was the thing and the harder you worked, the more self pride that you had.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're looking at it differently, as why kill myself? It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So they're looking for more of that life balance, and maybe it's swinging too far that way, more of a island mentality. You find people that grow up in like Caribbean islands and that, and it's throw your watch away, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's just not the same, and it'll get done when it gets done. Well, that's not such a bad lifestyle. Like I can't say it feels offensive to those who are always, bang, 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 and punching out the giant days and doing the grind. So it's easy to look at that and be kind of judgmental of it, but maybe they're onto something too, because isn't that what we all see at some point? Is like, okay, I want to just slow down and just live my life a little bit.
Yeah, no, you hear, especially with the younger generation, talk about why wait till you're 65, 70, you killed yourself working a job you hate your entire life and blah. You hear that much more now. People talk about that now. Why bust you for 40 years for a gold watch you're not going to get, all this stuff that our parents used to get and all that stuff, right? So, no, I do. I'm in the middle because I do agree with, of course you need hard work as well, but I've also seen people work, I was at a point in my life about 10, 15 years ago where I was working too hard and I was just not focused on the right stuff either, right? Thought I was focused on my family, but I was focused on my work. I wasn't there for my family like I needed to be, right? Because I wanted to build something so I can understand the slowing down mentality, but like you said, it's just a shift. Like it's just the times we live in now. It's just such a paradigm shift. It's unreal what we're going through.
I wonder if there's going to be a downside to it too, because if you're going to do anything that's exceptional, like you talk to anybody, whether it's the entertainment industry, entrepreneurism, it just doesn't matter. If you want to do something that's truly exceptional, you've got to bust ass.
Yeah.
Like there is no free lunch with that. So if you want to have a mediocre life with as far as, I don't know what measuring stick that you're going to do to say my life is mediocre or exceptional or whatever. But so I just don't know what else to call it. But if you're going to have a regular life, let's call it, then that means a regular workload.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have an exceptional life, it doesn't matter what industry it's in. If you want it to be truly exceptional, you've got to bust ass. If you want to be the best at anything, talent doesn't do it. You have to bust ass. So the softness of the newer generation, they won't be able to do that. So it's going to be, exceptionalism is going to be more and more rare. Fewer and fewer people have that grit. You might have all the talent in the world, all the intelligence in the world, but without that grit to really to punch out the hours and to stay focused and to sacrifice. Nobody wants to sacrifice anymore. You can't have it all. If you want to have an exceptional life in whatever your field is, it means sacrifice. And there is no way around it. There will never be a way around that. Greatness never, ever comes easily. And I think we're going to see that greatness is going to become more and more rare. It's always been rare, but I think it's going to be an even more rare commodity now.
I agree with that, because that's something that I always preach to my kids. Talent's only going to take you so far in this world. It always has, right? And that's something, if I've learned a lesson, I'm 46 years old, so it's not like I've learned any grand lesson in life, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's hard work. Anything you want to be successful, anything you want, you have to focus on, you have to work hard. Talent's going to get you through the door. Intelligence is going to get that door open for you. But for you to really, really succeed, it's hard work. And both the people that are most successful in life, I've noticed, doesn't matter what industry it is, it's not necessarily the people that were the most gifted, but they're the people that work the hardest and sacrifice hardest, and just, had focus, had focus and follow through, right? Like, it's one thing to sit there and make your list on your wall of your goals. I want to do this in a year, my 5-year goal, this, my 10-year. You can make your short-term, long-term goals, but the thing is to start to take action and to follow through and keep that action going. You can have all the dreams, you can have everything you want, but unless you actually do it, nothing's going to be accomplished.
What do you think keeps people from taking that first step and engaging in the action and starting to move forward?
I've heard too many times people say fear, but I don't know. I want to say comfort. I think there's just not a fire under them. There's no reason for it, right? There's no reason to have to change. There's no reason for it. They've got their roof over their head. They got whatever, they're content. There's just no reason for it, So I think really the people that really drive, or they're driven by, to actually take the action. I think there's a little bit of, it's whatever it is, but there has to be some sort of motivation behind it, right?
They say that necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're desperate to do something, or hitting rock bottom.
But that's what I'm saying. So I'm almost taking back what I was saying, because if you think about necessity is the mother of invention, but then it's like, kind of, well, then you do something out of necessity. Well, maybe you are kind of driven by that kind of base fear, right? Like, maybe ultimately, if you keep dialing it down to what the base emotion is, maybe it's true. Maybe it is, you need that fear. Maybe it is that little bit of fear that lights a fire under you, right? Afraid of being homeless, afraid of not being able to feed your kids, maybe it is fear. That is the ultimate thing that you.
Fear of failure, fear of success.
But instead of letting the fear overwhelm you so you don't take action, use that fear. It's just how you use that fear. Use that fear to take action, right? Not be afraid of failure, or not be afraid of succeeding, but afraid of what's going to happen if you don't do anything.
This video that we're doing right now is a Facebook Live, and Facebook Live really pushes it out, or YouTube Live. Either way, really pushes it out, because there's not much of it. There's not much of it because of the fear of just jumping in and doing. Right. So there's so few people that are willing to do that because they're scared of screwing up or sounding like an idiot, and which is going to happen, but you just got to push through it. But it's rewarded. That risk is rewarded by the algorithms. And it's funny. It's kind of like that with life. Like, if you're willing to do the things that the other people are not willing to do, yeah, and there seems to be a reward there.
And I know it's just be there. You know what I mean? Like, you and I met each other. We're like, this is the third time we sat and talked with each other, but like, we're kindred spirits or something. Like, we met each other for a reason, right? And I don't know, don't want to get all like mystical or whatever, something like that. But there's things that happen for a reason. But
yeah,
if I wasn't there, if you didn't come in, if we both weren't there, we wouldn't have met each other, right? And I think showing up has a lot to do with it. Just actually, just showing up and putting the effort for it. With myself, like, I got we have this medical cannabis business that just, like, my wife and I laugh about. Somebody asked us 2 years ago if we're going to be in it. We told them they were crazy, but it's just kind of, some doors closed, and, we had to make other doors open, other doors, stuff kind of presented itself. So we thought we'd, just kind of go through that door and see where it took us. So that's where we're at right now.
And you're an early adopter. You got in before the wave. Like, was it even announced that it was going to be legal when you got into it?
Well, I wouldn't say we're ahead of it, right? Because we're not a dispensary. We're just a medical. We're a medical cannabis clinic, and so those have been around, here, since at least 2012 here in Alberta. So they've been around for a while. We're the first one here in Okotoks. There's going to be, just some dispensaries or whatever open up, but we have no desire to open up a dispensary. To me, it's like opening up a liquor store.
Yeah.
For myself,
well, there's a different reason. It's a different business model. It's there's just a different why behind it if you open a dispensary versus a clinic.
Well, yeah, because literally when we educate people, we help people. There's a lot of times where people want to get the benefits out of it, but they don't want to get high off it, right? So they want to get the pain relief, or they want to be able to sleep off it, but they don't necessarily. They're not taking it to get the psychoactive effects. So then we also try to find people the little kind of how much they can take to get to just the effects that they need without taking too much or getting too.
Do you find the stigma associated for anybody who's never tried it recreationally? Do you find that the stigma, both medical and recreational, is starting to abate now? Do you think it's going to be helped once it is fully legal?
Yeah, it'll help. It'll help. The biggest thing that everybody I've met in this industry, doesn't matter if it's the medicinal or if it's the recreational people I've met from the recreational side, doesn't matter if it's like from big, massive companies, or if it's from smaller and more independent, but everybody, it's the stereotype that drives everybody nuts. You turn on the news and they talk about recreational, they talk about this, and you have a bunch of 18-year-old kids running around with their bongs in some field, some party somewhere, some festival somewhere. And that's just such a stereotype, right? That's just, like, pick your drunken whatever you want to put it behind it, right? Drunken so-and-so, drunken this, drunken stereo. It's just a stereotype, right? And as far as the cannabis use and all that, it's just a stereotype. The thing that I've discovered surprising, a lot of professional people, business type people, you wouldn't keep it very quiet. Instead of going home relaxing at night, instead of having a beer or something like that, they'll just assume to have a little puff or something like that, just to unwind at the end of the night, right? But that's the thing that I've discovered, just how many people actually have over the years have smoked it, but just kind of really kept it quiet because of the stigma. And I would say without a doubt, at least half of the adult population. And I'm not talking adult population like, late teens, early 20s. I'm talking adult population over 30.
Stigma only has power if you are part of the silence. If you're complicit with the stigma, if you're silent and you're quiet. Going to therapy through PTSD, not only am I not quiet about it, I broadcast it.
Yeah.
And the reason that I broadcast it is to help reduce the stigma, so that people and the ignorance, all the ignorance that is along with that. So the cannabis discussion happens all the time, especially in the veteran community. What we have anecdotally is again and again and again and again and again words like game changer. Like the first time in my life that I can ever actually, that's right. And I was expecting it to be in the mail by now. It'll probably be there today, but I can't wait to see what it's like to actually get a good night's sleep and not have the nightmares. But that's one of the effects that we keep hearing again and again. Yeah. The challenge, because until I had no idea how to get a prescription until I strolled into your shop, and bing, bang, boom, we're good to go. Because Veterans Affairs, they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Like at the OSI clinic, I asked about it, and my own doctor, my family physician, he's like, yeah, I will not provide a prescription for it. He's like morally opposed. And I would say, why? I said, well, there's no science behind it. And that's still the argument at the OSI clinic. They claim that there's no science behind it. Now, I know that's not true, but you're the one who's better versed. How do you respond to the idea that there's no good studies that have been done?
But I think it's true, because there hasn't been, the studies are just starting to come in now. If you ask somebody what a terpene was 2 years ago, most people wouldn't even know what terpenes are. Right now, people know that the terpenes, they call it the entourage effect. And we'll get into, we don't want to have the whole podcast talking about that, but that's just because within the last couple of years. So because we're finally getting through the stigma, because it's all the internet, it's all the younger, I think every social change we're having, it's all brought on because we can all communicate with each other, right? We can communicate with people across the world, and so we, so like you said, the silent majority, or people that have been kind of, quiet or whatever, all of a sudden everything's starting to come out a little bit more. Everybody's not as shy about it, especially when you can, we used to call people telephone tough guys, that would do like a phone call and kind of, do what do they call a crank phone call and tell you off and hang off. You had no caller ID, you didn't know who it was, right? So same thing with all this, all this trash talk that people do on the internet. It's like, I would love to see these people that are like, just crapping on each other. Look at the person. You really think you could talk that way? And I guarantee you they couldn't.
No.
But that same anonymity also, I think, gives that courage that it gives people. It's also too, right? Like it's a lot of crazy social justice stuff that we see, and a lot of it's craziness, but the hearts are in the right place.
I agree.
Maybe the methods that are being used for a lot of these things are wrong, but so I bring it back around to the cannabis, and people like your doctor and other doctors are just going to get more and more and more educated on it because it's finally going to start coming up. But they haven't been really doing too many studies on the CBDs or the CBD or the effect of the THC or whatever. Those studies are not there.
Well, I wonder. Here comes my conspiracy theories. I got no shortage of those, but it's got to be by design. It's like they're avoiding the truth on purpose. You've different treatments for cancer, and then they're so promising, and then you never hear about it again. It's about to go to human trials, and then you never hear about it again.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put myself, I have a form of leukemia, myeloid leukemia. I was diagnosed. I'm meeting with my doctor, the Tom Baker Center tomorrow, but also there's some gentlemen I met from out on Vancouver Island, and there's stuff called Rick Simpson oil, which again is another one of those. There's like online, it's all anecdotal evidence because there's been no scientific study. Various forms of this treatment, the RSO treatment, and it's cured their cancer. So I would like to actually use myself as a guinea pig and actually do a scientific test, see what I can do with see if I get the oncologist at the cancer clinic on board and see if we can figure out something.
That'd be a challenge.
Even if I got to take my blood work every day, for 90 days. Well, yeah, it's going to be a challenge.
What about, is there a difference between cannabis oil and hash oil?
No.
So remember the guy on the East Coast, Nova Scotia or something like that, and he cooked up some hash oil, some cannabis oil.
That's what the RSO is. It's just hash oil that you eat it.
Yep. And this is what he did. And it was person after person that was told terminal, and they're alive. They made it. Do you know the name of the guy I'm talking about? Because he had a few plants. It was all medicinal, but it was before there was any way to get a license for it. And he got shut down by the RCMP.
Well, I want to say that's Rick Simpson. But I don't know if Rick Simpson was out on the East Coast or if he was on the West Coast of Canada, but that's where it comes. They call it the RSO treatment. I believe he's either somewhere in the Philippines or Thailand or something like that right now. But yeah, he was the one that came up with it. But again, yeah, I think he's wanted by the police or, again, the scientific community, the medical community, because everything's all anecdotal evidence,
Yeah, but if it worked, it worked. I know.
But see, with me, that's where I'm conflicted because I'll be honest with you, yeah, we got big pharma and all that, but the type of medication I'm on didn't exist for my cancer. It's called dasatinib. It wasn't around 5 years ago.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that medication, I wouldn't be alive right now, right? That's what saved my life was that medication, right? But then also one of the things of it is with the medication, they don't know what any of the long-term effects are. It could make me just a brain dead zombie, 5 years from now. They don't know what the side effects of this medication because it's so new. But the whole thing is with just get it out with the pharmaceutical companies, just get out and let's just save these people's lives. Let's keep them alive right now and we'll deal with whatever happens 5-10 years down the road. Is
this leukemia that you're dealing with is one of the more aggressive ones, it sounds like?
No, because it's chronic, right? So chronic means it's so active, but it could switch to acute. And once it switches to acute, it becomes really active and, whatever.
Aggressive.
So, yeah, with the whole conspiracy thing, I really think up here in Canada, the only reasons why we ever even had marijuana as illegal is because it seems to be almost everything we do, we piggyback on the United States, right? So because they had the whole reefer madness and all that nonsense going on, I think we just kind of piggybacked on what happened with them, with their laws. And when people research it, people are really kind of,
Well, World War I and II, hemp was used for everything, and farmers were subsidized to grow hemp because the ropes and the mats and
there's clothing, everything,
just a million things that it kicks ass at, and it's a freaking weed. So it's agriculturally, it's wonderful.
Well, that's a big part of the thing was William Randolph Hearst. He didn't want to have to change his newspaper bills from using pulp paper. He didn't want to have to switch over to hemp paper.
Yeah,
and that was it. And because he was powerful and he could, had enough powerful friends that he basically changed the industry. Right, just think how many forests would have been saved if we could. I don't know if anybody knows why it's called weed, but it's called weed because it grows like one. You throw it down, it grows, and that hemp stock that you're talking is so useful. That grows very quickly. We could save ourselves a heck of a lot of forests from chopping down to make all that paper over the last 100 years or 80 years.
But for the sake of industry, it was hampered. And that's why I'm so excited about what's going to happen medically with cannabis now. with it being decriminalized or legalized or whatever the right term is, just around the corner. And I mean, how huge is this? Because it's not just like the state of California. That's pretty big. The state of California is the 5th largest economy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact that California, almost like its own nation, said statewide, okay, we're legal, and then Colorado and Oregon, like we're really progressing. One thing, it can't kill you. You know, there's no such thing as ODing on cannabis. And how many dead people can I list off in my own family that are dead because of alcohol? Dead, or their organs are destroyed, and yet they're worried about our health with cannabis. No, it's bullshit.
Well, that's why I got to be, even, years ago, that's why I got to use the cannabis for myself, the marijuana for myself, and the CBD for myself. As I had a holistic doctor in Arizona that was giving me the CBD, was recommending the CBD and producing the CBD for me for my inflammation, and then, to get off of all the opioids and all that over the years, and all the pain pills with all the injuries and stuff like that. The cannabis was great. But surprise, surprise, right? You can't fly in an airplane with a bag with some cannabis in your bag. They're gonna smell it. You're gonna get arrested. But you can have prescription. You have 1,000 pills if you have prescription for it.
And order a drink.
And order a drink, exactly. So, yeah, I do. I lost a lot of people I cared about in the late '90s, early 2000s because of the pain pills, and a lot of guys that I wrestled with, and
with the opioids.
With the opioids, yeah.
That's another bizarre one that makes absolutely no sense. Opioids for medicine, fine. Heroin is just fine, which can easily kill you and OD on. You can't die, you can't OD on cannabis, but no, that's bad.
Yeah. Well, but it shows you how long it's been around. But how long they use it for? They used to call that the Civil War in the U.S. They used to call it the soldier's disease. Was guys when they come back addicted to morphine.
Yeah,
that liquid morphine that they get, right? That they from the pharmacies back then. They called it the soldier's disease. And for years, I always heard the soldier's disease. I never knew what it was. Well, it was just an addiction to morphine that they come back from the Civil War.
And it's one hell of an addiction.
One hell of an addiction to break. So
yeah, but again, not as bad as alcohol. When you're drying out from morphine or from heroin, it won't kill you. Like the withdrawal won't kill you. But a friend of mine, not so long ago, it was last year, the year before, died from the withdrawal of alcohol.
Jeez.
So he gets off the bottle, the withdrawal killed him. And he's our age.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's our age.
Just like his kidneys, his renal system shut down.
I don't know what happens physiologically, but that's why I'm so excited about the idea that we're getting there eventually to decriminalize, and who knows what's next. Maybe the cure for cancer will finally be released. I don't say discovered, because I don't believe that we don't know how to cure cancer. I don't believe that. I just don't. I don't care if somebody thinks I'm an idiot. I do not believe that if we actually put our head to it, like legitimately, that there's all kinds of cures right there.
I don't do, but we can go on conspiracy theories all day long, right? I agree with you when it comes to, money makes the world go around. Why? The medication I told you about that I'm on is $200 a pill, $6,000 a month. Imagine somebody that didn't have insurance that couldn't cover that up. They would be dead, unless they're a very wealthy, a very wealthy individual, because who can afford $70,000 of your medication? Thank goodness mine's covered by the Tom Baker. But somebody's making money off of that. I love the whole research and development that they try to use always that excuse, right? That they got to pay themselves back. Well,
$6,000 a month. I mean, the spread on that's got to be 6,000%.
Yeah, because especially it's not like I have a rare disease. Like I'm the only one in Canada with it. You know what I mean? I haven't done the research, but I guarantee it's a pretty common form of cancer that I have, because when I've talked to people, and somebody seems to know somebody, they got a parent, or they seem to know somebody that has this form of leukemia, right? So it's been around for a little bit. So
yeah. How did you? Were you having symptoms and you went to get the symptoms checked out?
It was one of those ignorance is bliss things. I just knew for the past few years that just something was wrong.
Something's off.
And I went, like, my family doctor, I've seen him for about 15, going on 20 years now. And he'd always, my yearly physical, go get your blood work. And I would never go get my blood work. Because back in my younger years, when I thought I was Superman, all the dumb stuff I did, stuff I put into my body, I was always something in a trepidation. Maybe I did something to myself, right? So it just was always whatever I felt good, ignorance was bliss, right? And so I'm used to injuries, not disease, right? I'm used to like all of a sudden something breaks, you get it fixed. Well, disease is something that sneaks up on you, something that over the years, right? And so about 3 years ago, I noticed I had signs of depression, like, you know what I mean? But I wasn't depressed, and there's no reason to be depressed, but you know what I mean? Like, just can't get out of bed in the morning, just no energy, no get up and go, no passion, no, just like everything was just really blah. And I was like, what is wrong? You know, I'm not depressed. There's nothing. So I just was really kind of blah, no energy, just really tired. And then my wife was after me, and I still wouldn't do anything. You know, I just was one of those guys. I just get out of bed in the morning, just suck it up, whether I feel 100% or 10%, just suck it up and head out the door and get done what I need to get done for the day, right? So even though I wasn't feeling myself, I would just go and do it. You know, maybe I wasn't getting my job done as efficiently or as good as I could, but literally what happened, I went to Mexico. You know, and then it got to be like we'd have friends over or go out to dinner with friends or something, and like 7, 8 o'clock at night, I'd be like, I gotta go to bed. You know, like I became the world's most antisocial guy, just this extreme tiredness that I just could have a pot of coffee, nothing to do, nothing.
Like a giant weight on your chest.
Yeah, just like I say to my wife, I call it hitting the wall. Like there's nothing I can do. I just have to go to bed. I'm just so fatigued. And then like my brain shuts down. I start to stutter. I can't even put thoughts together. It's just a really bizarre thing I've never experienced. So kind of was experiencing that probably about, before about 18 months ago, I was kind of experiencing that. It was getting worse and worse. And then my wife and I, we took the kids to Mexico, July of 2017. And I was, again, you're on vacation. You're supposed to be having a great time. We're down the boardwalk in Puerto Vallarta. I'm just like, I just want to go back to the hotel room. It's like 5 o'clock. It's beautiful out. Normally you just want to go and explore and have fun. I want to go back to the hotel room and go to bed. So then I knew something was wrong. And then all of a sudden I went from my knees to the tips of my toes. I got these huge cankles just completely ballooned out on me, and I could poke it with my finger and it wouldn't go away. So then we got back. My wife made me go to the doctor. So I saw the doctor, and then the doctor, after he felt my spleen, got this look on his face, and he's just like, I know I've been telling you for like 15, 20 years to get blood work. He's like, I don't care if you got a meeting with the Pope right now, or the Prime Minister, who you got to go, where you got to go. He's like, you have to go right now to get your blood work done. Right? And so I was a little bit freaked out, but still, whatever, ignorance is bliss. So I went and got my blood work done, and thought I would get rid of some of the water retention by going and riding the bike at the gym. So I went to the gym with my wife, and all of a sudden I see a phone call from my doctor's cell phone. It's like 6:30 at night. Never called me before, from his private phone, my phone. So I was like, something's got to be up. So then I picked up the phone, and that's what he told me. That was about it. Told me that I had leukemia, and that my spleen was about 4 inches the size that it should be. It was being overworked, and I had to get to the hospital right away. So it's a little bit scary. I remember my kids were at the gym with my wife and I. And so then I got off the phone with the doctor. I didn't know what was going to, didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to go and be hooked up to some machine. So I kind of was a little bit freaked out. And so spent some time with the kids, spent the evening with the kids, and kind of tucked them to bed, and had my mom come by and sit with them. And then my wife and I went to the hospital.
Was it surreal at first? Like it was just...
I think, yeah, surreal. And I think even now, I think it's just, it's still kind of sinking in with me. It just more so just the limitations with everything with being sick. It just admitting that I'm sick, and just, kind of having to adjust my life around it. But
yeah. And it's the energy level is the biggest challenge for that right now?
Definitely the biggest thing.
Yeah. Because it's just an ass kicker.
Yeah. The medicine is so strong as well that you're putting in your body, and then your body's fighting something. My immune system's, always constantly fighting something. So, it's like, when you're fighting a cold or fighting the flu, you just that little kind of, you just don't have that pep of energy, right? So it's kind of like that when you just can tell that your body's constantly fighting something.
Has it caused any isolation for you? I know that when people start going through, because people are awkward, they don't know what to say, so they don't call. Have you found that? Have you been isolated since you've been diagnosed?
No, not isolated. I'm just kind of laughing because if anything, my friends, I got some friends that I've been friends with for 40 years. They're more like brothers to me. There's a group of 15 of us. And so once a year, we all go on a golfing trip last weekend, or second to last weekend in August. So that year I decided I wasn't going to go on the trip, even though I was feeling okay. I just didn't, I wasn't looking right. My friends would be able to tell. So I didn't want to ruin the golf trip for everybody, be the downer guy. And, so I didn't want to say anything to anybody then. So I kind of kept it to myself. But I got a kind of a weird sense of humor. I like to see people squirm. So I'll just tell people out of the blue, right, that I have it just to kind of see what their reaction is, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just that warped sense of humor. It is what it is. It's just,
Did anybody not believe you? They think you're screwing with them?
Yeah, I think especially, if because I still, I take my shirt off or whatever, I'm still in decent shape. I still look okay. I'm carrying a little bit of muscle. If anything, I went from about 275, 280 pounds with, close to a 42-inch waist. All of a sudden, I'm now went down to like about 235 pounds with a 36-inch waist. Smallest my waist has been since grade 11. So I'd have people asking me about the diet or how'd you drop all this weight? You tell you all this money. I call it the cancer diet. And then people don't know what to, they just get this horrified look on their face.
I'm so sorry I asked.
It's like, whatever, right? So I think the biggest thing with me is I've always been like, this is kind of hard to say, but I don't know. I'm not one to ever ask for help with people. I'm one like, I'm there to help people. I'm there to help my friends. I'm there to help my family. I'm the guy that people turn to when they need help. So the thing is that for me to turn to people for help or admit that I've got a little bit of weakness, that's probably the hardest thing. Not admit that I'm sick. It's like it's okay to admit that I'm sick and I'm doing just fine. I'm dealing with it. But it's just it's just tough to admit that. That you're just going through a little bit of a tough time, I guess.
Have you found people that are trying to be supportive, but they say the stupidest shit? Have you had any of that?
Yeah, without a doubt. But I get a kick out of it. So
yeah. Because they're well-meaning,
Well, always, I'm sorry you have cancer, right? It's just, why are you sorry? Did you give me some curse? Did you give me it to me? Like, why are you sorry? But their heart's in the right
place. We're Canadian.
So
we're just sorry.
We're sorry for everything. Yeah. So apologize about everything. Yeah. Say please and thank you too much as well.
Have you been networking at all or support groups with other people that are going through it?
No, I haven't. And that's something I've got to start doing. Like I talked to you about trying the Rick Simpson and something I do. Okay, well, I guess to be honest with you too, is I've been, with everything going on, I'm an entrepreneur or whatever, but I'm still like, always looking for, I got my clinic that I'm going, but I just don't want it to affect my work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't want to affect any potential, anything that any future potential, anything. So it's kind of hard to admit that you're sick, knowing that it's gonna, could affect any potential prospects that you have too, right?
And you don't want it to be your focus either,
Exactly. And I don't want sympathy from people either, right?
And I wonder mentally if it's even like you hear people say words like "my cancer" as opposed to "the cancer," then it becomes something that almost becomes part of their identity. You see the other type that, hey, I get to be a victim now. So
well, that reminds me of the whole 12-step, the whole alcoholic, the whole 12-step thing, because it's like it's a contradiction. I'm supposed to, if I'm at Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm supposed to stand up and say, "Hi, my name's Chris. I'm an alcoholic." But yet, when they go through those same meetings, they'll tell you you have the disease of alcoholism. Well, it's like you're contradicting yourself. Am I an alcoholic or am I Chris with the disease of alcoholism? So should I not get up there and say, "I'm Chris. I'm sick with the disease. I'm sick with alcoholism. I suffer from alcoholism. I am an alcoholic," because, like you just said,
then it internalizes.
I'm an alcoholic. That's your whole identity is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But it's just what you're struggling part. It's a bad part of your life you're struggling to overcome, even if it's all encompassing at that time. It's not who you are.
And there is a mind-body connection,
without a doubt,
and it's been shown empirically, not through some hippie website, but it's been shown empirically that. And one example of the mind-body connection is I remember every time there's a cancer study that looks promising, I remember it. I got a weird memory like that. So we're going back 25 years, and there was a pretty large experimental group, large control group, and they're all terminal. They're all said, "You're fucked." And but
are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you betcha.
I've bit my tongue about 24 times.
Yeah, no, that's Joe Rogan does it. Well, the thing about the swearing, it's part of the authenticity. Like, you don't swear for shock value. You don't swear for the point of swearing. Like, if it's just the right word, it's the right word. So, be comfortable with it for sure. And then I put a little caution, harsh language. But so this study, in an actual scientific study, and then because it got nothing to lose at this point, you've all been told that you're done. So they put half of them on a blueberry rich diet, super high in vitamin C, whatever it was. But it was blueberries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just blueberries. And they put everybody on it, though. But the dividing line was in this group, so everybody's on the exact same diet. The half that were like, fucking rights, let's do this. It's like, got nothing to lose. Let's do this. Let's
they were all in there buying into it. They were 100%.
Let's do it.
They believed in it.
And the other half were like, what the frick is the point? And it's like, this isn't going to help anyway. Can you guess which half survived?
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a mind body connection. Pretty much, I don't know if it was 100%, but the majority of the ones that were like, yeah, I'm going to do this, same diet, they're alive. They made it, and everybody that had given up are dead. So I mean,
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt without a doubt. I don't doubt without a doubt. Nice language. But it is. But you said it's that old hippie. It's that old thing. It's to put positive out and positive come back. It's just it's tough. It's tough to stay positive all the time. But you let that negativity get over it. You start feeling sorry for yourself, and it's a snowball effect. And then you start feeling sorry for yourself and negativity, and it just good stuff's not going to come. It's unwritten rule of the universe, or it's a written rule of the universe.
And if somebody's skeptical about positivity, fine, be skeptical. So maybe the positivity is woo-woo, but it feels better than the negativity. Like the negativity is guaranteed not going to help, but the positivity might help.
The situation is what it is.
Yep.
I hate that saying. It is what it is, but it's true. It is what it is. The only thing that you can change is how you look at it and how you deal with it. That's
brother.
You can only change internally. All these people that other people like blaming other people. I can't control anything you do. I can't control what you think of me. I can't control anything. All I can do is control myself. If I want you to like me, I can't force you to like me. I got to be endearing to you. I got to have something that makes you want to like me, right? It's all on me. It's not on you. It's on me.
And if you don't, that's okay.
That's fine.
It's not a slight. It's either it's the mix or whatever, but once
I think it's more spiritual when you get to that.
They say the definition of freedom is not giving a shit about what anybody else thinks about you. And really, isn't that everything? Because how does this go now? You are not what you think you are. You are not what other people think you are. You are what you think other people think you are. That's who you are.
It's amazing how people are detached from how they see themselves versus how other people see themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think we get to that generational thing. And I think with the younger kids and with everything nowadays and with podcasts, with YouTube, and everybody can be star of their own TV show and star of their own world, and they can film something, they can go online and they can watch it. I think people become a lot more a lot more. They don't maybe see themselves how other people see themselves. Maybe they're more confident in themselves. But I think that's a good thing, right? I think it can make a lot of self-delusional people, a lot of people who are entitled. But it's also, it's nice to see people like when I was growing up, that's if they were, the same people would be like hiding in a corner, they'd have their heads down, they wouldn't have any self-esteem. It's nice to see people like that have self-esteem now that normally that I knew growing up wouldn't have self-esteem. So it goes back to that whole thing with the generational thing and how there's a change too. Like, there seems to be so much negativity in the world, but on an individual basis, the way people are looking at themselves, I think, like you said, people are learning to accept themselves more. It's not like, oh, I'm 20 pounds overweight or my hair. Like people are now learning because society's saying, hey, be proud of who you are, accept who you are. So I think that's where we're kind of coming nowadays too, with a big part of the switching it too, is how when everybody kind of viewing themselves differently, how's it going to change the world?
I saw a clip of Dr. Phil and Gene Simmons was coming on as a guest to talk to this guy who was a wannabe rock star.
I've seen that clip on YouTube, I think.
And he's like, and Gene Simmons comes out and he's like, oh, Gene Simmons.
And the guy was like our age and he didn't want to let the dream go or something. Like he's like a middle-aged guy or something like that. And
Gene said the neatest thing to him though. Gene said to this guy, good, that you have to be delusional. You think he's crazy to have this dream? You have to be crazy and delusional, or you can never do it.
Yeah.
you can't. If you can't see yourself as the next great big thing, then you can't take it's not just going to happen. It's not going to happen from wishful thinking. You have to see yourself as that before you can start taking the right actions towards that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in my book, I did I give you a copy of that? If not, I'll give you a copy.
No, you haven't. You got a copy of your new book.
So the
is that the new book?
No, that's the one I gave you. I'm pretty sure. If not, I'll give you another one.
No, you never gave me a book. You sent me a copy of the one on the.
Yeah, I'll give you a copy of this thing. Yeah. But it's in the beginning, out of the 52 keys, the first one, and now I'm starting to understand it at a deeper level. The first key is to truly believe that you are that person. And that you can do it, and now realize that there's actually something before. It's more than that. That is still the starting point, but you have to understand that you're already that person, regardless of your bank account, regardless of your following on YouTube, but like whatever your goal is that you're trying to achieve, you are already that person. The second you realize that you are that person. And actually understand it more than believe it. And it can't be one day. I believe that I will get there. You can't do that. It has to be in the presence. I believe that I am there, not in a delusional, I believe there's actually $1 million in my bank account, but no, I believe I'm the guy that has the $1 million, whether or not it's physically there. Does that make sense? You have to believe that you are that person, that you belong in that crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we see that. I've seen that a lot, in the self-improvement stuff or whatever. It's the whole, you want to be rich, well, act like you're rich. You don't wait to be rich. Act like you're rich now.
And then you'll start making the right decisions.
You'll start. It's kind of like the universe kind of provides it for you when you get that right mindset.
Well, you act in accordance to your self-concept, and there's very few things that I think are cast in stone. Especially in psychology, but the one that seems like it's non-negotiable is that you can't move beyond your self-concept. So if you believe you're here, that's it. That's your glass.
You create your ceiling for yourself.
That's your glass ceiling. So you have to see yourself as that rock star and actually believe that, no, I am that guy. Maybe I don't have those results, but in here, I am that person. So that means these are the actions I'm going to take. And no different than consistency in the gym. Mm-hmm. If you're always seeing yourself as weaker and smaller and less than or fatter or uglier or whatever it is, and you don't see yourself as the person that's already made it, if you showed up, you made it. You show up twice, you made it twice. Mm-hmm. And then it's about the consistency, but you have to see yourself as that person. I am the person that's in control. I am that person. Or you will it'll be that motivation that comes up. And then
we got that motivation that comes up, but then you got to have that follow through, right?
Yeah.
So what if you are that guy who's 50 years old and you still have that belief that you're the next big rock star, but it's just not reality, right?
Yeah.
There's only so many of them out there. There's only one LeBron James. There's only one Michael Jordan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's Larry Bird and there's Magic Johnson. We can name there's Wayne Gretzky. There's but so many guys could envision themselves being the top of their sport or their chosen field and really. So what is it?
Where do you draw the line between delusion and practicality?
Yeah, my kids, I encourage my children, whatever you want to do, give it a try in life as well. But somebody like myself, for example, I can't all of a sudden envision that I'm going to be the next big rock. So I still got bills to pay. I have a mortgage. I got kids to feed, right? Yeah. I can't all of a sudden start just having these big dreams and beliefs. So I understand what you're saying. I agree with it. You have to have that positive mental attitude.
But you have to be able to also have the realization of, okay, I'm 5'1". I'm not going to be in the NBA.
Thank you. Just exactly what I was going to say. I'm not going to be exactly.
Yeah, my IQ is 86. I'm not going into the moon.
Exactly. You can visualize, you can believe all you want, but then there's only so much.
Unless I'm a janitor.
You also have to. You also have the tools to go with. So it's all these things together, right? you know, like Michael Jordan, a famous story, didn't make his high school basketball team, right? Well, he could have quit. He just worked harder. Well, then he had the talent, he had everything, plus he had that drive, plus he had that work ethic, and that's what. But he, you know, Michael Jordan would have been Michael Jordan without the drive, without the God-given talent as well, right? It's just he was able to harness that and put lightning in a bottle. Same thing with LeBron James, but there can only be one of those guys a generation.
Well, there's the other side of that too. Like I think about Guy switching to hockey, like Guy Lafleur. He was not. Now, if I got the story right, I hope it's Guy. Otherwise, I got the wrong name for the right story.
Montreal Canadian.
But I believe it was Guy that was a very mediocre player, but his work ethic was like no other. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the all-time greats, like ever. One of my favorite hockey players, even though he was self-admittedly quite the asshole, was Fleury. You know, and I've met him a couple of times. I kind of like the guy, but I'm only 5'9", and he comes up to here on me, stout, strong as a ox, right? Yeah. But he was my favorite guy to watch play. I don't care if he was a dick or not, because Theo Fleury would outwork everybody. Like he would just like every time he had that puck, that dude had nothing but hustle. Yeah. That's why I enjoyed watching him play.
But he also had that belief. So did Guy Lafleur. Those guys also had that belief that they were going to be in the NHL. They were going to be all-stars in the NHL. They had the work ethic. So they put everything together. They had that self-belief that you're talking about.
I guess what I'm saying is that despite his size, Theo Fleury kicked ass. Yeah. All-stars, Olympics. I mean, awesome, right? Like top of it. He didn't just make it to the NHL. He made it into the elite of the NHL. And he's like 5'7", you know, give or take. And Lafleur, even though he doesn't have Gretzky level talent, he had Gretzky level work ethic, and through just grit, the guy is one of the all-time greats. But you still need a certain amount of talent.
Yeah, so you
still need the talent.
They still had that athletic ability. I don't care what. They still had that hand.
Period.
Fleury was quick on his skates. He was quick. You know what I mean? And because he was a smaller guy, he was also quicker. He's able to change direction than a guy like a Lemieux or something like that, or a Lindros or something who played in the league at the same time as him. Because he was but and I met Fleury as well, and he might be short, but he's an athlete. You can tell. You can tell he's an elite athlete.
Strong.
Yeah, so there's still something there, you know, like Ty Domi, you know, he was a little guy, but he was the toughest guy in the NHL at the time. Well, I met Ty Domi as well. You look in those eyes, you know, when you come across a stone cold killer, they got something different behind those eyes, right? Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm getting at. You have to have all these things we're talking about today. You have to have the dream. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have the work ethic, but you also still need to have some of that talent. Like
it's just tough of where you draw the line for this is a foolish endeavor.
Exactly.
You know, but it's like I'm 48, pretty reasonable shape. You know, I'm not going into the UFC.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not starting a career as a UFC fighter at this age. Yeah. Like that would just be dumb. Although Herschel Walker did it. But he's a professional athlete and has been since.
Yeah, you're talking Herschel Walker.
That's Herschel fucking Walker.
And the elite athlete walking the planet. I don't care if he's 17 or 47. Exactly. Yeah, that's Herschel Walker. Yeah.
Although I am still curious, like how would I do? I'd get my ass kicked. But
that's part of the reason why I got out of wrestling too. Is I missed the competitions, but it's just too beat up to get into something else like that.
Yeah. Although like if a guy's knees are still working. Like the Rock is our age, a little older. How long did the Hulk wrestle for? Like he's like what 106 now. The guy's geriatric. No, but he's still doing her.
Is he still doing it?
Stallone is 72, totally jacked. Mm-hmm. He's the same age as Trump the lump, you know, and it looks like an old man. And then from the neck up, Stallone looks old, but Jesus, he's jacked as hell. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, without a doubt.
There's no way he moves as fast as he used to, though. I don't care what type of shape he's in.
It's the injury. It's the healing when you get older, I think. So all the little bumps and bruises, you know, when you're in your 20s, you wake up the next morning, they're gone. When you wake up in your 40s, it takes about a week to get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to hang a little longer. When I fell down, I used to bounce, and now I shatter. Or I just go splat.
Yeah. Stuff breaks. So
yeah, that's it. So but
again, right? Like like you just mentioned, two guys, and we were just talking with The Rock and with Hulk Hogan. Again, there's lots of people that had those dreams, and there's lots of people that worked, maybe just as hard, if not harder than those guys. But there's a little something made those guys what they have. And if you ever met either one of those two guys, they have that charisma. They got something behind them. They got that magnetic personality.
When you meet them, you could just sort of see it.
Yeah, do they develop those magnetic personalities over time, or within the charisma over time, or is it something that you're born with as well, right?
If it's something that's innate,
it's probably a combination of the two, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, Chris, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I think we have to do this again.
We will. I'll be a little bit more presentable next time.
No, it's all good. But if you have questions on medical marijuana, if you are in the South Calgary, Okotoks, Foothills region, are you on Elizabeth Street?
Elizabeth Street, yeah. Total Health Cannex on Elizabeth Street.
Total Health Cannex on Elizabeth Street. I strolled in there and because I had nowhere to go, no one to answer my questions or figure out how to get a prescription. It was bing, bang, boom. And we'll do another show after I've got a few weeks of using the cannabis oil to get a good night's sleep, which I am desperate for.
It'll help you, I promise.
Yeah, I have no doubt. But thanks for joining today on this special edition of the Mikey Show podcast.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thanks,